You're listening to Mile High Insiders with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Now, it's time to find out what's going on behind the walls of UC Health Training Center.
Delay is better than a little bit late, and we are rolling here. Going to run at this on Mile High Huddle as well, and waiting for that last check mark there. And it was the one on the far left, spinning wheel, and we're good to go. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Saturday night is for the Broncos, and welcome, Eric. How you doing, man? Welcome to Mile High Insiders on this fine Saturday night. Thank you for joining me today. First, also shout out to Luke, who is a little bit under the weather. So, everybody send out good vibes there. So hopefully we'll get him back by draft season. But Eric, thank you for being flexible and jumping on here last minute.
Hey, man, it's all good. And I'm Saturday night, not really doing much anyways, just spending time with the family, and who really cares about them? But hope Luke gets to feeling better. It's definitely never good feeling under the weather, man. But no, I'm doing good. I hope you're doing good. It's excited to have a good time. It feels like it's been a while since we talked, even though we talked almost daily in our chat, but it's definitely been a while. So super excited to be here, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, let's see everybody who's in here right now joining us on this fine Saturday night. It says we got 52 eyeballs right now. We got Mohammed Badri in the house saying, "The Beast, how you doing?" We got George Newton in the house saying, "Nick, Eric, and the Beast, hello all." We got Cam Wirtz in here. "Hey, all glad to be here." Yeah, I'm glad you are here as well. And Mohammed, he said he's good. I'm glad to hear that, Mohammed. We got LeBron Bledsoe as well. Hello all. So that's great to hear. We got Charlie Beagle in the house. Charlie, how you doing? "We damned well better not trade down with the Patriots." Well, you might not like one of these trade scenarios that we're going to talk about, but that's the fun of it, right? And we got Bob Skinner in the house saying hello, Broncos country. Dylan Von Ark. Dylan is in the house as well. Where did he go? There, Dylan Von Ark's in the house. Peter Middleton, hello again. Well, hello to you, Peter. David Bingaman, I bet he trades back. Well, that's what we're going to do today, so we'll see what happens. Robert Kaslow, what's up, my Globetrotters. We'll just go with Globetrotters. CJ Orange Crush in the house. What up, fellas? Randy Emmons in the house. Man, in the shop with Willie, man. I love going back and forth on Facebook with In the Shop with Willie because he does not hold back, which I appreciate. It makes me laugh. Me too. Job Libick in the house. Alan Adams, Kareem Gomez, Ernie Mays, Nate Dank, Paul Jackson. Man, Saturday night, it's going. Greg Smith in the house. Mike Givens, Gary Leeds Palmer. Oh, man. First super. Before we even get to our Manscaped, let's get to the super from Christian Garas coming in here. What's up, guys? Can't wait for the draft. Just please no Mac Jones. Hashtag state of being. Hashtag let them hate. Well, Christian, you know what? I'm not going to disparage Mac Jones in this episode today because all forces of good and nature and lend me your spirit powers. Mac Jones 3. God, let it be so. Mac Jones going to the 49ers at 3. We'll see what happens there. What's up with Mac Jones? Sup, guys? Who knows what's up with Mac Jones? It does sound like Kyle Shanahan really likes him, so the 49ers might take him at 3, but they might be BSing as well, right? It's one of those things where I will believe it when I see it because it does not match up with my eyes, but we'll see. But speaking of matching up with your eyes, first we got to get to our ad read for today, and today's show is being brought to you by Manscaped. Guys, we had a lot. Obviously, it was a very tough 2020, and 2021 has been a little bit rough so far, but it can really brighten up your year as well as your area below the belt. Manscaped. 2021, and it's time to embrace that new year, new me Mindscape, and the best way of cultivating all of that is with Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision engineering tools for your family jewels and helping 2 million men around the world keep their male grooming on point. If 2020 was rough for you guys, 2021 can really help you reboot and stay clean and shaved below the belt. Now, I'm still in the process of looking for everything here, but I just trimmed my fingernails today, got them on point. I'm a violinist, so long nails drive me absolutely insane. You can't play with good posture if you have long nails. So busted out my Manscaped clippers here, filed them down. So we're good to go there as well. Also, fresh haircut going on underneath the hat. And something I really need is the weed whacker. It's in queue. Eric, I know you are a hairy beast as well. So you definitely are a user of the products. I've heard you speak about them many times, and I've heard Zach speak about them too. You know what? I'm starting to get some strays coming out of the nose, and I'm not about it. Even though it's like I'm masked up at work, right? Like I can feel them against my mask. So if you get the Manscaped products, they can be extremely helpful for you. And guys, right now, if you go to manscaped.com and you use the code HUDDLE, you get 20% off and free shipping. Again, if you use the code HUDDLE, you can get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. So guys, drafts around the corner, new beginnings, fresh start. But if you really want the freshest of starts, make sure you check out Manscaped and clean up below the belt. And also, guys, again, this is Mile High Insiders today. Typically, it'll be Luke and myself, but today it is going to be Eric and myself. You can find Eric on Twitter at Erick Trickel, and you can find myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, you can guys follow John on Twitter at John K MHH. That's JONKAY MHH. I believe that's off memory because I can't see his name because it has his whole name written down there. And guys, also we are writers, workers, minions of Mile High Huddle. You can find all of our content there. Eric has dropped probably about 600 scouting reports so far this process. It's a smaller class this year, but the numbers, they just keep growing every year.
650 something, and at that rate, I got one for everybody, basically.
Oh my God, that's no offense to, and God bless that you do all that, but that's a lot of guys that aren't going to do much in the league. Unfortunately, That's just the way it is at the end. I feel for you guys. Like, I really like to get a good idea of the top 100, 150, but then I see some guys, it's like, I don't have 2 hours to sit down and watch a guy who's going to be a priority free agent. Like, I'm sorry, I'm moving on. No offense to those guys, and sometimes, obviously, they prove me wrong, but God bless you for going through that much tape because I could not. And also, guys, you can follow us, join our Facebook group at Mile High Huddle as well. And YouTube listeners, if you guys would please like, subscribe, and share. It's the most helpful thing you can do for us. Obviously, we are going to be here for the draft. Tomorrow, we're going to have our draft show, not the live draft, but a pre-draft show. So really excited. Going to have everybody on there. And I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not sure how much you guys already know, but it's going to be fun tomorrow. We just had a meeting about that just a bit ago. And guys, also on Facebook, click those thumbs up, heart reacts. Right now, we only got 12 in here. That's on my eyes, 12. That's Tom Brady's number. You guys are better than that. Get some thumbs up. We got to get that old man Brady out of here. 12. It's a good quarterback number, but I just a little too much PTSD with Tom Brady. So Eric, thank you so much for joining us. And, both of us have been very much on the quarterback train for the Broncos. And it's not so much, I think we both are kind of like, I think Drew Lock has the tools, and if they went with him this season, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I mean, you're not really super committed to him financially. There's still viable steps he can take, and it's separating the reasons for and excuses for quarterbacks. But like, there are plenty of reasons for Drew Lock being a bottom 5 quarterback last year. Injuries, losing the number one best player on offense in Cortland Sutton. The offensive line didn't really gel until like the second half of the season. Learning a new offense, an extremely young offense, yada yada yada. Still bottom 5. You end up picking 9th. It's a great quarterback class. Don't be afraid to swing. But everybody knows that we stand there. But there is a viable scenario in this Broncos draft class, or in this upcoming draft for the Broncos, that the Broncos do end up trading back. So that's going to be what we're going to talk about here today as our main topic. Obviously, the chat is going to dictate a lot of what we talk about as well. But let's get to the supers here real quick before we really dive into some of these scenarios that I've laid out here. So first we got friend of the show, David Cromello, who I was just on his show to do a top 10 mock draft with him, which was a lot of fun. We had the Broncos moving up to 6 to secure Justin Fields. Can the Broncos get an even bigger haul in a trade back from 9 to 19 or 20 than they did in 2019? Interesting question here. I'll kick it off to you, Eric. You have your ears to the grind a little bit more than I do. Is that something the Broncos can get a better value on if they trade back?
So I think that it's actually rough because this is being such a smaller class after such a weird year. The value of these draft picks this year seems very different from team to team, basically. Mm-hmm. I know there are some teams that are valuing 7th round picks next year as like a 4th or 5th round pick this year because of how small the class is. So very hard to say. I think that in terms of just the basics of it, I think yes. But I think that the valuations of the picks are going to be a little bit different because of just how teams are valuing the draft this year, which is one reason why I can see the Bears being willing to give up what seems like a little bit more, like maybe, what was it, the first, a second, and a future third, right, in 2020. Yeah. I could see them possibly giving up like a first, a second, and like a 4th and a future 4th or something like that, which would technically be more, but in terms of valuation would be similar. So I don't know, kind of rough to really say for sure.
And it really depends. Like, let's say Jalen Waddle falls there, or one of those cornerbacks, let's take quarterback off the table. If there are two teams that want to go up for that guy, the price goes up. You don't know until you really know. And obviously the teams have a better idea because they are laying out the groundwork right now. But if there are multiple teams interested in coming up, jumping Dallas, jumping the Giants, maybe want to get an offensive lineman, that's depends on how the board falls. But there's definitely a chance that Broncos can get more than they got in 2019 when they traded from 10 to 20. So, we'll see. And also I think there's a lot of people say that there's like a clear delineation in this class in like the top 11 to 12. So maybe somebody would be willing to give up a little bit more to come get up there out of that third tier range.
Wasn't it the Panthers who said they only have 13 players with first round grades?
Yeah, I think so.
I think a lot of teams are on similar kind of field as that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard one team has about like 22, I think, and that's the most I've heard. It's definitely a lot lower than normal this year.
Just a smaller class, and that's another reason why the quarterbacks make a lot of sense. We had Asthma Spray 55 in the house. What up, Denver fans over on Twitch? We want to say hello to our Twitch supporters as well. So thank you very much, Asthma Spray. And Alan Adams coming in here. On duty at the fire department in San Antonio. Well, pay attention, Alan. Be ready to go. You can keep us in your ear if you got those AirPods or whatever, but you don't want any fires. No other Broncos fans in my department. Give me hope. Well, Alan, this Broncos team is as talented. The roster is as talented as it has been since 2016, and the Broncos should have a better quarterback than they had in 2016. And they're a younger ascending team compared to that 2016 team, which was very much on the downward spiral. So there's some hope for you. And Broncos have the 9th pick. They have a lot that they can do with that. So I think it's a good place to be. The Broncos, I think, they're not obviously not the 2015 team that won the Super Bowl, but I would say that this roster top to bottom is as good, and the chances of this Broncos team making some waves are as good as you've seen since 2016 when that team still had a really good defense.
Yeah, and Alan, I just want to say, hopefully the only heat you deal with tonight is what we bring on this show.
Man, and we just lost 32 viewers. No, I'm just kidding. Gary Chopper, oh no, we got a flat earther in here, says Gary. What are you doing, Gary? Get out of here. No flat earthers allowed. What's going on here? I think Michael Porter Jr. is the only flat earther allowed in Denver. So we got Mr. Boggins in the house as well. How you doing, Mr. Boggins? I'm really excited for Mr. Boggins to be fully vaccinated, so that way we can meet up here in the Pacific Northwest at some time for a couple cold ones with the boys, Saturday night especially. Albright has suggested the possibility of Naji Harris if we trade back. Thoughts? He's also said the Broncos like Andre Cisco. Thought on fit? Well, I'll keep this short and sweet. It does sound like Pat Shurmur specifically would like Naji Harris in a trade back, and Naji Harris is all-team cool person. I mean, listening to interviews with him, he's extremely intelligent. He was homeless for a while. I mean, he's got a great story. I'm not going to bet against Naji Harris. That being said, I'm not taking him in the first. If they traded back to, let's say, pick 33, because it's the first non-first round pick, and Naji Harris was still there, that's cool. It sounds like he's going to go 24. I'll believe it when I see it. But I don't know, man. It's just, you're never a running back away, and this team is going to have a lot of holes next season, and much better process long-term for me would be getting guys to fill those holes today in the draft, because draft picks are investments, rather than plugging in a non-hole, which is running back, because you still have Melvin Gordon, who's a top 10, top 12 running back in the NFL.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, taking a running back in the first is not something that I'm outside of very certain situations, just not okay. And it's never outside of like the last 5 picks. One thing, if that happens, that could ease it a little bit, is depending on what Denver got in return to move down. But still, it just comes back to that pick of the running back. And as much as like Naji Harris, just a little bit iffy there. And he's actually my number 3 running back. So, I mean, kind of taking him over the other, my top 2 also kind of brings a little bit issues for me. And then Andre Cisco, I think he's a fine fit. I don't think he's a perfect one. But at safety, with what traits he has, you can definitely make him work and be effective.
It would be interesting. I do feel like he's one of the few that could actually play true cover 1 in this scheme, in this draft cycle. There's not actually many cover 1 cornerbacks, but I mean, cover 1 true center field safeties is kind of going the way of the dodo, right? You don't see many true cover 1 schemes. So I need to hear CC list a bunch of safeties who are maybe a little bit more versatile than scheme fits for the Broncos, but you could probably get Cisco day 3. So that changes things a little bit. And there's who's that safety from Pittsburgh? Also, I mentioned him the other day, and
Damar Hamlin.
Damar Hamlin. Yes. He is a good scheme fit too. Everybody was Paris Ford. I think Damar Hamlin's the guy to look out for. That being said, I think the Chargers may have eyes for him. I mean, their defensive coordinator, Hill, was, I think, Hamlin's either defensive back coach, maybe even the guy who recruited him to Pitt. So there's a connection there with the Chargers. So we'll see. And obviously they're running the same scheme. So here we are.
I mean, DeMar Hamlin, he's just so fun to watch. Very versatile with what he can do. He's one of those guys, you can play him too high. He's not ideal for cover one, but if you want to go single high, he's got enough range to do it. But I like him cover two. I like him dropping down into the nickel. Former cornerback, moves very well. Not the most physical guy against the run, but he's not afraid to be as physical as needed, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there a better college uniform than those Pittsburgh blues and yellows? Man, those are very aesthetically pleasing. Those are some of my favorites. We got Jordy Lopez coming in here, trade with Miami for 6, give them 971 and swap second rounders, 40 and 50. I mean, the board has to fall a certain way, but I think if the board does fall a certain way, I would be so not surprised if you see the Broncos announced as a trade moving up to 6 overall. I mean, Greer and Peyton go back. They've worked together before. Obviously, I know it's this huge semantics where like, oh, Peyton didn't call, but Greer called and they talked about it. It's like that kind of thing. It's like, oh yeah, Peyton didn't call. I don't know. I mean, if anybody's out there that's claiming that one way or the other, I'm not trying to take any shots. It's just like everybody's talking right now, right? Like does it mean anything? It means nothing or it means everything. You don't know what they talk about, but to say they're not talking is kind of like, okay, sure.
And the biggest thing is they've spoken, and what they spoke about was a swap of 6 and 9. Like that's what it is. That's the truth. Doesn't matter who called first. Doesn't matter who called. It just doesn't matter. It's that they spoke, and they spoke about 6 and 9 and a potential swap. And I'm with you. If the board falls right, I can see Denver moving up 6 or 7, one of the two, depending on how the board falls, and going after one of the positions.
Yeah, and we got Jay coming in here, friend of the show, Jay Roper, always super, super nice in the comments here. He said, by the way, Nick, sorry for missing your show with Scott, which is Broncos for Breakfast. It's hard waking up early when you were writing research papers and lab reports until like 3 a.m. I remember those days. Don't feel bad, Jay. I appreciate it. Honestly, the best thing that's been, not the best thing, but one of the awesome things about Broncos for Breakfast has been we've been very European-centric and some Middle East viewers for the Broncos for Breakfast, given the time zones changes. So being able to provide live content for those people over in Europe and across the pond, it's been really fun to see all those names come up and some new faces and some people that are bringing them into the fold, making the family a little bit bigger. One guy's opinion here with the $10 super. Thank you so much. One guy's opinion. Is it too much to hope for a couple trades back to end up in the early 20s and pick up a couple extra second rounders? Well, one guy's opinion, I think maybe now's the time for a good pivot here to our trade scenarios because we have multiple, and I'm not going to flash them up here on the screen because it would just look like a bunch of goggly gook for you guys with all the numbers and the formatting that I have. But Eric, let's go with trade scenario number 3, or C here first. So that is a trade scenario. So we're going to talk about multiple trade back scenarios. Obviously, again, Eric and I have been gung-ho about if you like a quarterback, go up and get them. We like the top 4. We'd be ecstatic with any of them. However, there is a reality, and it can be a positive reality, where the Broncos trade back, net capital, fill out this roster, get some good players, and put themselves in a position where this roster is so strong that they can sacrifice future capital if they have to go for a quarterback or go for a veteran next year or Drew Lock hits. I mean, all possible realities. How likely? We'll see, but all possible realities. So scenario C here, the Broncos are trading back. It's a double trade scenario here. So the Broncos trade back with the Philadelphia Eagles, sending pick 9 for pick 12, the first 12th overall pick in the first round, and pick 123, which is a 4th rounder, as well as a 2022 third. So the Broncos and the Eagles, there have been some rumors that the Eagles are interested in moving up to 9 to jump the Dallas Cowboys for a cornerback, I believe. Probably. It might be if a wide receiver falls, but reading 9, I would guess cornerback. So that makes sense. And then the Broncos obviously sitting there at 12, a double trade back. We have them trade again with the Chicago Bears. Let's say Philly trades up for a cornerback there. The Chicago Bears trade up then to 12. Mac Jones is sliding. Bears are saying, you know what? Nagy's saying, I cannot feasibly probably win with Andy Dalton. I think Mac Jones is a little bit better. It's go big or go home right now for the Chicago Bears. So they trade picks 20, 83, and a 2022 second for pick 12 and 115. So that gives the Broncos a crop here of pick 20, Chicago, pick 40, theirs, 71 overall, 83, which is Chicago's, 123, 153, and as well as picking up future capital, a 2022 second from Chicago, a team that's probably going to be picking pretty high, and a 2022 third from Philadelphia. So, Eric, what do you think about that scenario? How feasible? I plug them in multiple calculators. Obviously, I know it's a weird year, so it's really hard to guess how teams would trade back. But is that something that's feasible in the 8? And also, is that something that you would be interested in a trade back scenario?
So let's see. Philadelphia moving up for a corner or a wide receiver. I definitely think jumping Dallas would be for their pick of J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain, because Dallas is probably going to go one of the two, and whichever one's left. So you want your pick of the litter, really. So I think that's very feasible. If the board doesn't fall right, if Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, the 4 quarterbacks, if they're all gone, I could definitely see it. I mean, there would be no one there really worth it. So picking up that extra capital, allowing you to move down just a couple extra spots, letting that board clutter. And from there, I mean, even if somebody doesn't fall to where the Chicago wants to move up, that's a place where it's a little bit easier to kind of justify starting to look at the edge class or looking at it that way. And then moving back down with Chicago. I mean, there's definitely been a lot of ties of Denver moving down with Chicago, getting Nick Foles in return of that. If they don't land a quarterback, there's been a lot linking them to Nick Foles. Pat Shurmur was coach for him, and just a bunch of ties there. So I definitely think it's very feasible. Not something that I would be super interested in, obviously, because I'm so gung-ho about moving up. But if the board falls that way, it's one thing I would look at. I'd kind of want a little bit more, maybe go back a little bit farther with that first trade instead of just going down 3 spots and then looking to drop back a little bit more mid-20s. Just provide a little bit more flexibility. But there's nothing really with this trade that would make me go, yeah, I'm not going to do it. Like, there's nothing with it that just rubs me the wrong way.
For sure. And getting the 2 top 100 picks for 2022 gives the Broncos some flexibility where if they need to buy in on the quarterback class, obviously you'd rather have a first next year, but getting 2 more top 100 picks gives you flexibility where you can continue to kick the can and get future capital if you want, or you can be aggressive, make a trade for a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is one that's been interested. Maybe that's pie in the sky. Russell Wilson, same thing. But maybe it's a Matt Ryan or a Kirk Cousins. Maybe it's a quarterback in next year's class as well. It just gives you the flexibility if Drew Lock fails. And you also get yourself an extra top 100 pick doing that while getting 2 extra top 100 picks in 2022. So the picks, again, let's just focus on the first 3 rounds. Pick 20, pick 40, pick 71, and pick 83. What are you looking there? Who are you targeting in that range?
Well, at pick 20, I think that would be a great point to start looking at this edge class. I mean, I would be looking at 12 a little bit, though that's still a bit early for me. And I'd also be looking, despite what they've done at corner, I'd be looking at another corner too. Is Greg Newsom still on the board?
Yes.
Like that's the big one for me. But going back to edges, Jason Owe, a little bit early for me, but I'd start looking at him. Jalen Phillips, if he cleared the medical checks, like I think that would be really good value for him there. So a lot of different options. And then in the second round, you have with these added picks, you have the versatility. If you see a linebacker start to drop a little bit that you're not comfortable is going to be there at 40, or you just want to move up a little bit more, secure an extra 5th-year option, you have that flexibility to do that as well. And then go get a guy like Jamin Davis or Baron Browning and really fill out this defense and field what has the potential to be the top defense next year.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of holes on the defense coming up. Boundary cornerback, nickel cornerback, safety, 2 linebackers, edge rusher. So being able to do that means then you will not have those holes next year. Means you can be more flexible with your capital and cap in 2022 and beyond. So, it's when you're looking at rosters, especially when it comes to the draft, you cannot look at this upcoming season. You need to look at the structure of the roster and how it looks 3 years, 4 years down the road. So that's a good one I would like to toss out. I'm not sure if he would be there. Greg Newsom is a great call out. The edge rushers is a great call out. I'd be fine with Owe there. Tevin Jenkins, I'm not sure if he would be there at 20, but if he fell, yes, daddy, please abuse me. I want to watch him in bowls, and he'd be such a good scheme for this too. I know Juwan James is back. He's healthy. I think they're obviously heading for a divorce after this season, after everything that's happened between the two sides. So if you can get a tackle out, also Jenkins has guard tackle flexibility. That's another name that I would like to throw out there. Then day 2, cornerback Asante Samuel. I'd love to get him at 40. The safeties start to make sense around there. Maybe an offensive tackle or a running back as well. I'd be fine with Harris or Javonte Williams at pick 40. So Peter Johnson coming here. Tevin Jenkins at 20 would be great. He said, I like Asante Samuel Jr. from Cam Wirtz. So that would make a lot of sense. JOK, I think, makes some sense at 20. The Broncos are linked to him. I'm not sure if it's something that I would be interested in doing specifically, because I'm not sure he's the best scheme fit, but it does seem like there's smoke there. So do you have any thoughts on that?
It would definitely be interesting. I'd be very curious to see how much Vic Fangio would adjust his scheme to make him fit. Because with what they do now, he just doesn't have a natural fit into the thing. He's a box safety, and Vic Fangio just doesn't use a box safety. The few times that they've needed to, it's just been Kareem Jackson just dropping down, and he's still here. And I do want to step back real quick and address one thing that you mentioned about future needs. A lot of those positions that you mentioned about future needs, cornerback, edge, those are positions that you want to take the year before they're actually a need, because then that gives them the time to grow in the NFL, get some experience, get the defense down, and then have them step into a starting role. Few positions I like that. Those are two of them, which is why corner and edge would be super high up for me. And another name, tackle. And tackle, yeah, that's another one. And another name for second round is Elijah Molden. I would be, I would do whatever it needed, whatever it took to make sure he ended up in Denver. I mean, he just screams a Vic Fangio defensive back.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it makes sense. I wish he ran a little better at the pro day, but he had good jumps and explosiveness. So
he pulled his hamstring during the first run.
Oh, well, that would do it.
So,
is he somebody that you would bank on maybe falling to 71? Is there any chance of that, given how scheme specific he might be, the devaluation of nickel players in the NFL?
He's one that I would look at 40, depending on how the board fell, obviously. Yeah. And if there was somebody that I valued more at 40, then I would be looking at using either 71 or 83 to move back up and go get him.
In this scenario.
I don't think he would fall. I don't think he'd fall 31 spots from 40 to 71, though.
That makes sense. The NFL, man, they, for whatever reason, nickelbacks and safeties are, I think there's a market deficiency at that position. They're more valuable than what they get paid. A little bit. I agree. It's not as much as it is, but I think that's, if there's any position where you can bet on waiting, I think the nickel position and safety are two where, unless they're like absolute freakazoids, Derwin James, they tend to fall and you can find good guys. So we had Mr. Boggins coming back and he said, Nick, calm down. Maybe I was talking too fast. Sometimes that happens. I'm just too excited. It's draft season. Everything, we got so much to talk about, so much to see, so much to do. Mr. Boggins, name 5 players you would not want in the first round at all. I'll give 5 here real quick. Micah Parsons, still, it's just character stuff. I'm sorry, guys. I just line in the sand. That's where I sit. And if you disagree, God bless you. It's already a poop shoot as it is. And that's enough of a worry that it makes him more likely to be a bust. And I'm not going to put myself in a situation, especially at 9, for an off-ball devalued linebacker position, to put myself in that situation where he could bust. Sorry. Another one, Naji Harris and Javonte Williams. That's a double. I'm sorry. That's just, we're here. Zaven Collins is one that I like, but 270 at the medical rechecks plays kind of finesse. It's just like, I'm not sure what he is. The tape is solid, but it's not amazing.
Him showing up at 270 makes me think that he wants to be edge more than off ball.
I mean, money, baby. That's I get it, but and another one that I would not take in the first round, I guess I will say Christian Barmore, just because how this Broncos team is set up right now. There are some defensive tackles I like later, and Barmore I think is a pretty darn talented player. But the Broncos, I mean, they invested in Najee last year. They brought back Harris. It's one like, where is he playing this year, and who is he displacing? And you're not sure. I just don't know where the snaps are for him. I don't see the 2 to 3 year role for him as much as I do see like a linebacker, edge rusher, cornerback, safety, et cetera, et cetera.
I'd probably throw out Gregory Rousseau as well. As much as I like him for Denver, I wouldn't take him in the first round for it.
Yeah,
I like the idea of sitting him behind Von Miller, letting him learn a little bit, watch him pick up on some of this stuff. But there's just way too much risk there with how he tested after opting out. Just makes me not in the first round.
Yep, for sure. Any other names that stick out to you?
No, for the most part. I mean, Mac Jones, but that's one that's like late first, somewhere in the 20s. I'd be okay with it.
How about the Georgia cornerbacks?
The Georgia corners, definitely wouldn't take Tyson Campbell. I'm not a big fan of him. Eric Stokes depends on how the board fell, but I'd be okay with him late round 1. Okay,
I just worry that he is so stiff. I mean, he's explosive coming downhill, but change of direction and ball skills are not first round worthy. I think I'd rather punt. I might take Asante Samuel before I take Eric Stokes. And that's just more scheme. I think Stokes has a real good chance just to be, he's more athlete than football player right now. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. So we had a super chat there. Let's get to that one. There we go. David Carmelo coming back in. If the 49ers take Mac Jones, do the Falcons take Trey Lance instead of Pitts? Possibly. We won't know. I won't know until we know, right? Like it's Lion season. Up until an hour before the draft, the Browns were taking Sam Darnold, right? Like we'll know when we know, but expect the unexpected, right? Like everybody's saying Pitts. If they took Lance, I would be 0% shocked.
So how I look at it is I think they take Pitts still, but I think they should take Lance. And it can go either way. From what's being leaked, it seems like the new general manager, he really wants Trey Lance or a quarterback, but the owner and head coach, they kind of want Pitts. So it's kind of the same thing what we're seeing at 3 of who's going to actually make the choice. Is Kyle Shanahan going to get his guy or John Lynch going to get his guy? Is Terry Fontenot going to get his guy or is Arthur Smith and blank? Are they going to get their guy? Like, won't know until the mid pick is made, really.
Yep, absolutely. And talking about getting the pick made, somebody wish it was done already in the shop with Willie. Can the draft hurry up? I'm ready for it to be done. I was that way about 2 weeks ago. Now I'm starting to get like excited again, because it's like we're less than a week away. So now it's the anticipation. It's really a roller coaster ride. Like, in like February, like gearing up for the Senior Bowl, get really excited about that. And obviously the bowl season, November, December, excited about it. Then probably February to March, especially March, it's like, okay, can it be the draft yet? And you kind of get distracted by free agency moves going on during the time, which is great. And then those first couple weeks of April, a slog. And we already have, like, everybody kind of knows where we've looked at the top 40 prospects, top 50 prospects. We kind of have an idea of where we want guys. It's just like bickering, and then we starting to get into bad draft tropes, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, I won't say that I'm immune to that either. Sometimes it happens. But I think right now I'm excited for it to get here. And I'm more just like a kid with it's the week of Christmas. I just want to open up the damn presents.
That's kind of how it was for me. Getting all my articles done, all my scouting reports done, being able to take a step back. It's really rejuvenated me and made me back to being excited. And one thing this year that really made the whole thing weird for me was no combine, because that is a lot of stuff that gives you a lot of time, or that you go over a long period of time. Didn't have that this year. So it kind of seems like we're farther along in the draft process than we actually are, at least to me.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We got Mohamed Badri coming in here with a super sticker. I know that John's going to pull it up here in a second. There we go. Fist bump with that pair. He's frozen on my screen, but that's okay. Thank you very much, Mohamed. And also hashtag King of the Super Stickers. Oh, double on there. You're double on the screen, Mohamed. We appreciate you. We got a question here from DBA, and DBA did not say Malik McDowell. Eric gives me a hard time about Malik McDowell because of the breath incident with him at the combine. That's for another day. Chances the Broncos draft Penei Sewell at 9. Eric, I'll kick this to you.
If he's there, I could definitely see it. I think that they're one of the few teams that would prefer Rashawn Slater over Penei Sewell. I'm not sure exactly why. I think Penei Sewell is the better prospect, though not by that much, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that they would prefer Rashawn Slater. But if he's there, maybe they use that to bait another team trying to trade up. Maybe they try to, connect with Minnesota, who they could possibly be in on Penei Sewell. Maybe they try to go farther down, and Chicago decides they want to move up for an offensive lineman. Like, multiple teams want to move up for an offensive lineman, so maybe they bait that. Maybe they take him. Can't really say one way or the other, really.
Gosh, I know it probably won't happen because he does not operate this way, but Penei Sewell next to Quentin Nelson with the Colts would be a lot of fun. I would like to see that. I would like to see that.
I mean, and with that, I wanted to throw that out there, but I know you and we've discussed this about, we just don't see how they can really afford to move up after trading for Carson Wentz. But if they could figure it out, man, that would be a killer left side of that line.
I'm taking Jonathan Taylor in the first round of my fantasy draft. No doubt about it. In the shop with Willie coming in with a $2 super. I'm tired of seeing 40 mocks a day. Also, equestrian rooster padlock. So, I don't want to say it. I don't want to draw it out. So thank you very much for the super. And I feel I've done maybe like 2 mocks this year, honestly. Like I don't know. They're fun process and I like to look through them, but haven't done that many. So we got John Huston coming in here. John Houston, would you like Davis Mills in the 3rd? He's nice. I mean, would I like him in the 3rd? I think he's somebody that if the Broncos, let's say they were in the position where the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Like you have a quarterback, it's in a swan song season. You're not in a position to get one of the top guys. all for it. That I take that shot. Fine. The odds are he's probably another Mason Rudolph because that's kind of what you're getting with day 2 picks. I think he's more talented than Mason Rudolph, but he's more of an unknown. But that said, you're just taking a scratcher there, right? You don't expect a hit, but you might. So, and I think that, Jesse Smith's coming here. Davis Mills goes to the second. That does seem to be the hype, maybe even late one. I mean, all it takes is one team to love a guy. But I think he'll go probably in the top 50.
Yeah. Just this feeling with how bad this class is after the top, 6 or 7. I think a lot of these quarterbacks are going to go early. And I think it's going to be pretty much dried up by middle third, end of third round. But yeah, Davis Mills, I like what he puts together on tape, but just the injuries and getting sick this last year and just all sorts of stuff, man, just doesn't have experience and it shows.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's talk about another one of these trade back scenarios. Let's go with trade back scenario A, just because I think it's the simplest one that's probably not going to happen, but it's another one that makes sense for the Broncos. The Broncos trading all the way back to pick 27 and 31 with the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are coming up to 9 for a wide receiver. Maybe they're coming up for Penei Sewell. I mean, that's a team that could really use some offensive line help after last season. They kind of started to trend the wrong way. They just lost Orlando Brown, obviously. Marshall Yanda retired. So coming up for somebody that they view as generational, maybe Penei Sewell to play right tackle opposite Ronnie Stanley, protect Lamar Jackson. I mean, it sounds fun. I don't know if that's a big trade up for him, but in this fantasy world, that's what happens. And the Broncos received pick 27, 31, and 132 just to sweeten the load. So then the Broncos have 2 late firsts while still holding 40 and 71. What do you think about this, Eric? Probably not going to happen. Obviously, they might trade up for maybe an edge rusher or something, but Ravens are a team that want to go back. They want to kick picks into future. They want to get all those comp picks if possible and maybe trade. I mean, when you can get comp picks or late picks and trade a 5th round pick for Calais Campbell and keep him on your team for 3 years. I mean, there's a reason the Ravens have only had 4 losing seasons in 30 years, right? They're just brilliant team.
They kind of follow that similar philosophy that George Payton kind of wants to bring in of the more darts you have to throw and the better it is. I mean, they love those comp picks. They love turning the players into comp picks. If they move up, I think it would be for a wide receiver. I don't think they'd want to move up super far. I don't think they'd want to move up into the top 10, especially. But I mean, if they fell in love with Jalen Waddle, who I think is of the top 3 receivers, he makes the most sense for them. Just adding another dynamic type of player for that offense, just make it super fun to watch. It's not a bad trade. I would like to probably take that 4th round into a 2022 pick, and that would be ideal for me. But can't complain about it. I mean, it gets you into a position to really target the meat of the edge class and the top of the linebacker class. Baron Browning, Jamin Davis. Those are 2 guys right there with one of those picks. And then, I mean, Azeez Ojulari, if he's there, Jason Owe, talked about him a little bit. Jalen Phillips, Ronnie Perkins, maybe. A lot of good options in that range at edge and linebacker, if that's the way they wanted to go.
What about Trevon Morig? I'm looking for a chat in here about it. I think he's a versatile guy, brings a lot of fun to the field. I don't value the safety that much. I know it's important in Vic's scheme, but it's a position where you can find a guy day 2 pretty solidly. But what about Morig in that range?
So you mentioned it earlier about cover 1 with Andre Sisco. I think Morig is the best cover 1 safety in this. He's a true center fielder to me.
He's got more slot ability, in my opinion, though.
I think he does, but I just don't. It's one of those situations where I don't want to take the guy away from what he does best, and I think that he just does so well being that single high safety with his range and his quickness and everything that I just don't want to take him out of it. But if Denver wanted to go that way, I think you can make him work, and I think it would definitely give you a lot more versatility in your secondary.
Yeah, no, those are some good names to look for. Maybe, I mean, if the Broncos have picked, 31? I wouldn't love it, but if Najee Harris was there at 31, I'd begrudgingly roll my eyes and be like, fine. We get 4 years of control, 5 years of control. Use him, abuse him, let him walk. You get the value of that rookie contract, and you got 5 years of running back squared away. Okay, fine. I don't love it. I could see a reality where I wouldn't be too upset about it. But you're right. The edge rushers, the linebackers there, maybe another one of those offensive tackles. I mean, maybe Joe Tryon is another name that's being slept on right now. He's somebody that I think could be a good fit here, kind of an understudy, can do some versatile stuff. I mean, gosh, Washington, God bless them for rushing 3 and dropping 8 because it's the Pac-12 and, you can do that, but poor Tryon, right? He's trying on his best to get pressure with 3 pass rushers. That's not his game. He's not a 5 tech. So the next trade back scenario I'd like to talk about after we get first super sticker. Let's get to that first from Skies JB with a $20 super with the lemon and lime giving a hug. Man, you are making me either want a Sprite or a delicious mixed drink there, Skies JB. So appreciate that. Or Sykes JB, excuse me. Man, vodka tonic sounds pretty darn good. Eric, you're not really much of a beer drinker, right? Are you?
Not really. I think so. Last time I drank really drank anything was Valentine's Day. Had some wine with the wife, and then over the weekend I had a Smirnoff seltzer.
Oh,
just chilling out, playing some video games, and
there you go
with Luke Poglaze and a couple other people, and yeah, I'm
good time.
Not a big drinker, really.
No, well, good for you. That's I would have thought so, given some of your scouting reports. But I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a heart. Does the safety position have more value than the running back position? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's pivot from this one. We have one more draft trade scenario here that I wanted to talk about. But how would you rank the positional value? Let's just go defense right now. Like, how would you rank these guys? You can tier them. You can put them in the ordinal order, specific rank order, et cetera, et cetera. But how would you rank specifically for Fangio's defense too? Let's make this Broncos-centric. Defensive positions for the Broncos in terms of value. And obviously you guys follow the dollar signs, right? Like you can tell what positions they value more based on the average pay. I'm really curious to see who ends up getting paid more between Bradley Chubb and Quentin Nelson to kind of settle that debate. But it'll be interesting to see who gets paid more. I mean, if in a world where Leonard Floyd can get paid, what was it, $14 million a year, $17 million a year? The Bradley Chubbs could be pushing 20 if he has a good year this year. So we'll see. But ranking the Broncos defensive positions by value.
Obviously, I think I don't want to say edge and defensive line, but I want to say pass rushers.
Okay.
Edge and interior. I think that's the most important. Vic Fangio, he firmly believes in rushing as few as possible. So you got to be able to get pressure. So the pass rushers is obviously the most important. From there, I would probably, honestly, I think I'd probably go safety for his defense and then linebacker after that. Then your front seven, your defensive line edge, run defenders, and then corner. I mean, he just doesn't seem to have corner valued all that high. I mean, this year it seems to be valued higher after everything that happened last year, but it's a defense that works front to back and middle out. So the farther back in the middle just has a little bit more value, I think.
Interesting. I would still rank cornerback pretty darn high. And I think it's a position that it's as important who you have as your fourth cornerback as it is your number 2 and 1, because you're going to need depth, especially in the specifics of the AFC West, which has become the Big 12 of the NFL with all the speed and the weapons and the bombs away offenses. And we saw last year, I mean, granted, it was the 7th, 8th, 9th cornerback for Denver towards the end. How can you even run it off or a defense when you're down that far in the secondary? But it's fun to see Eric and Nick roast each other. Well, man, you should see the group chat because it is nonstop. It is not PG either. We're going to try to keep it PG in here. I think cornerback I'd have higher still. Also because how much you still have to pay them, right? Like no matter what, you still have to pay them pretty good. Even if you don't value them as much and maybe you can get a little bit of a discount, they're still going to be costly. And then I would probably do, I have a hard time with linebacker and safety. They're it's unlike offense where there's way clearer delineations of value, like interior offensive line and running back, probably pretty darn low. Tight end for the most part can be pretty low unless you have a difference maker. Tackles, quarterback, wide receiver, those are the money makers. Defense, it's like edge rusher, cornerback, and then everything lumped in. And it's more about if you are a difference maker or not. Yeah.
And I would say that one reason why I value corner a little bit lower is just how easy Vic Fangio's defense seems to be to pick up for corners. Mm-hmm. How easy it is to go get guys who can at least play decently. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously you still want playmakers there, and Denver wanted them. They went and got some. So it definitely still has value, but I would just probably the one I'd value the least, really.
Interesting. See, that would be an interesting dynamic here to see if that shifts at all, assuming the George Payton Vic Fangio relationship lasts. Because if you want to look at a team that values cornerbacks like nobody's business, granted a lot of that's Mike Zimmer influence, but still, I mean, Payton there hasn't been a cornerback that's come down the draft board that he hasn't thought about. Yeah, it's like the picture of what is it, the cheating boyfriend or the looking over boyfriend? It's all the cornerbacks I drafted in the last 3 years. Oh, but that one at pick 31, I got to get him. So is what it is. We got Cam Wirtz coming in here with Tommy Tremble as a sleeper pick that the Broncos could take in maybe round 4. Tommy Tremble is going to go in the top 60. I feel pretty darn confident saying that. There are not many Y tight ends in this class. He's kind of a Y and an H, but he blocks like crazy. I think there's a lot of untapped athletic potential there. Doesn't have the injury concerns of like a Pat Freiermuth. And if Hunter Long is being talked about in the top 40, Tommy Tremble has a chance to go pretty darn early too.
I would say top 75 at the latest. Only reason why I can see him drop is that his hands aren't the greatest.
Yeah. Yeah, but
the only reason why I can see him drop, but he's such athletic upside, best blocking tight end in the class. Like
it won't end up this way, but it reads like George Kittle.
Yeah.
It kind of reads like George Kittle. I'm just throwing it out there. Somebody, an Iowa fan who overlooked George Kittle as well. His dad's lawyer in Cedar Rapids, just up the road from where I lived. And the injuries obviously hurt George Kittle also. Having a quarterback that can hit you on time, something Iowa has struggled with over the years, limits you as well. But Tommy Tremble, I think he could go really high. And this is an interesting point as well, Eric. I want to get to the wide tight end position. The Broncos don't have one.
No,
they don't have. The Broncos currently do not roster a wide tight end on the roster. I know that Pat Shurmur likes to run more 11 personnel, but let's say we're running 12, and it's Albert Okwuegbunam and Noah Fant. Am I making Noah Fant be the de facto attachment to the offensive line? Because Alberto you have to, but then you're neutralizing your best tight end weapon. It's just, so your thoughts on that?
The point you're making is why I thought Nick Van Nett was going to get to training camp at the latest.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of fans wanted it to happen, but I thought he became a little bit more reliable as a blocker down the stretch. And more reliable as that safety net pass catcher. And I thought that bought him enough time. And this isn't a great class for finding those inline tight ends. So
yeah,
I'm not sure what they're looking at. I'm not sure if they're betting on the fullback hybrid guy, Andrew Beck. I'm not sure if they're betting on him making some big step forward to be used as that. But yeah, Alberto Okwuegbunam, after what we saw last year, granted it was a very little amount of time, he has so much work to do as a blocker, and then he got hurt, which is just delaying that progress he needs to make. You'd have to make Noah Fant the guy, but it's not an ideal situation.
Yeah, and it's not that Noah Fant can't operate as that wide tight end, but it's like, you're asking Peyton Manning to run a RPO quarterback option. Like, okay, like he's smart enough, he can do that, but you're cutting off the legs. Like, don't put a guy in a position where he's not going to succeed, or you're limiting his biggest value, especially as a tight end. So it's really interesting. The Broncos they don't have a Y. It's weird.
Maybe they just put Tim Patrick there because Tim Patrick's probably one of the better blockers at receiver. Like that probably would work better than Noah Fant or Albert Okwuegbunam, really.
Yeah. And higher learnings here saying Fant's blocking last year was greatly improved. Did you guys even watch his blocking? Yes, it was good. Yeah. The point we're making though is, do you want Fant to be neutered where he is that de facto guy? I mean, you can do it in some reps, but I would much rather have Noah Fant playing the F tight end where he can be detached. He can move around. You can isolate him against a linebacker and go eat. Yeah, I don't want Fant to be the guy who's limited and attached to the offensive line. Moody is a beast. Remember Dwayne Carswell. I do not remember Dwayne Carswell off the top of my head. Sorry. He's John's gesturing in the background. I have no idea, but Moody is a beast. And he's the Broncos version of Will Hernandez, who they really wanted a few years ago. And they got him in 5th round. So good job. Hopefully he can stay healthy. I'm not sure if he's going to take a starter spot this year, but having depth on the interior offensive line is pretty darn nice. It's been a while since the Broncos have actually had some depth on the offensive line. Need tackle, but I feel pretty good about the 4 interior offensive linemen right now.
But Calvin Anderson, man.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm pulling for him. I'm not pulling against him. He is very outspoken on Twitter, which good for him. So am I. But undrafted tackle, I mean, pretty hard.
The question is he one of those guys that Twitter searches his name, though? Yeah?
Yes,
okay.
Sure.
That tells me all I need to know.
TEOT Carswell played for Shanahan. Okay, I remember him now. You're right. Thank you, Vinny J. That's that guy doesn't really exist so much anymore. I could see some team like New England maybe doing that where you have the power quarterback runs, but unless Denver brings in Trey Lance, I'm not sure they're going to go with that. So let's get to this last trade down scenario here. Trade down scenario B. We have the Broncos trading down with the New England Patriots. They send pick 9 and a 2022 third. However, they get pick 15 overall, so not that far of a kick down. The 6th round pick this year from the Patriots, 198. That's not very much, but they also get a 2022 first from the Patriots. It'll probably be a late pick, but having another first in the chamber for 2022 really gives you some flexibility to be in the quarterback next year, to get another starter next year, to trade back and accumulate assets if you want. So flexibility, extra capital, those picks, they matter. The picks are overvalued, but because they're overvalued, if you have more, you can trade them off and get a lot for them. And trade 2, I also have the Denver just to accumulate more picks. Trade pick 40 and 153, which is a 5th rounder, to the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans, a team that is, I would say, in a win now window right now. Derrick Henry probably has 2-3 years left. Ryan Tannehill right now, Vrabel, they're a team that's been in their playoff window. It may be receding a little bit, and they need help at cornerback. They need help at offensive tackle. They might need a linebacker. They could use another edge rusher. I know they paid a couple, but you can never have enough. They need wide receiver. So we have them trading up. If there's a guy they like, maybe they have a 1st round grade or an early 2 on somebody that falls to 40, and they're like, I got to go get that guy. Maybe Terrence Marshall. That would make some sense. So Titans trading up, giving pick 53, 86, and a 2022 4th. So that leaves the Broncos with pick 15 from New England, 53 from Tennessee, 71, which is their own, 83 from Tennessee, and then a 1st round pick from New England in 2022 and a 4th from Tennessee in 2022. Thoughts on this trade down scenario? How feasible or likely do you think it is?
So I've been going back and forth in my head about what I think about this. I really like the second part of it, the trade with the Titans. The trade with New England, just I don't know, giving up that 2022 3rd for. I know you get that 2022 first. It just something about that just doesn't sit right with me. It's not a bad trade by any means, but it's one where I'd rather not give up that future top 100 pick. Maybe try to give them a 2022 4th and get that back. But it's also very hard to say because teams are just valuing those future picks differently this year. But
I would rather. Here's a question then. Let's say the New England comes back and says, you can keep that 3rd. We're going to give you our 2nd. And I would rather give up the 3rd and get the 1st than get New England's 2nd, given how the value kind of, how it drops. It's like a logarithmic decay, right? Like it drops off quickly. So like you're losing even more value the farther you go down. So I'd rather get the 1st.
Okay. If they were doing that, if we were giving up a 3rd, I would honestly, let's see here. I'd 9 and 71. Like I'd rather give up the 3rd this year than the future 3rd. With how small this draft class is, with all the concerns with this draft class, I'd rather give up the 3rd this year than I would next year.
Well, that's an interesting point. I thought the big thing I was doing there is I know Peyton kind of wanted to have more assets this year in the top 100, top 120, so I didn't want to give that up. But if you're getting a 1st round pick next year, that probably changes things a little bit because that's a plug and play starter or a chip where you can buy yourself into the high rollers of the teams looking for quarterbacks next year. And that would put you in the realm of going for a quarterback if you wanted. The teams with extra 1st next year, Philadelphia, Miami, Detroit. Now you'd be a team with an extra 1st next year. That gives you a seat at the table. So I think that's one that's interesting as well. And picking 15. I think picking 15 is very interesting for the Broncos because like we talked about, 9 to 11 players that you'd like in that range. A lot of teams have 1st rounders. 15, maybe they would still have a 1st rounder there, but who would you be looking for? It's only 6 picks later. So maybe you'd still take the same person at 15 that you would at 9. But obviously there's some delineation, but who are you looking for at 15?
I'd be looking at who's fallen. You mentioned him earlier, Tevin Jenkins. I think this is a good spot. If you really want to get him, like this would be a good pick. I don't think he falls past the Oakland Raiders. It's just one of those gut feelings I have. They need offensive line, and he just seems like that attitude, personality fit that John Gruden wants. So that would be a good place for him. If he's not there, Christian Darrisaw. I know you and I have different opinions on Elijah Vera Tucker, but I'd consider him here as well. Yeah. And then the edge classes again. Depending on what, always come back to the edge classes at it because it's just such a weird year with them. Jalen Phillips, he'd probably be a top 10 pick if it wasn't for the medicals.
Yeah.
So it's just, how do you feel about those medicals? Is there enough concern to not value him that high, or are you okay with it? And then if you're okay with it, do you still value him as a top 10 pick, or do you value him as a little bit later? So however that case may be, moving down to 15 might be that perfect spot really to go get Jalen Phillips.
And I'll be honest with you. I do not think it's too early for Newsom. If the medicals come back fine, I think Newsom has a chance to be cornerback 1 in this class. He's scheme versatile. He's a good scheme in this one too. Ball skills. If you're not concerned about him missing the games that he's missed over the last 3-4 years, I think 15 is a great spot for Newsom. I'd have no issue with that there. I know it's one that I prefer to trade back maybe another 5-10 spots, but I really like Owe. I've always liked Owe. I like the tools. He's somebody pressure matters, man, and traits translate for the edge rushing position, and the dude's got them.
And with Owe, I mean, a lot of people point to how he had no sacks this last year, but he was still getting a pressure every 8.5 pass rush snaps. That's a high amount, much better than Malik Reed, not far behind Bradley Chubb. So adding that's great. And one thing you mentioned about Greg Newsom, he is my corner one. And with the injuries, if I'm okay with that, I would definitely consider him there. And I know I'm going to get scorned for this, but I'm the same way with Caleb Farley at 15. Like, if everything's okay, I'd take him because that athletic upside, like.
I do worry with apparently the microdiscectomy surgery is one where a lot of those guys have degenerative issues later on. It's ones that they have to go back multiple times. So I think there is a chance where he's going to be. It's the same thing that happened with Tony Romo. It's the same thing that Tiger Woods had. And that means that maybe long term, especially already being a 22-year-old cornerback, still raw to the position, mixing up my year. And, that's another thing. It's just like, oh man, like if my medical staff came back and said like, we're not that concerned about it. Hell yeah, I'm in. But, other than that though, it does concern me a little bit just given the precedent of it.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's one of those, as I said, it's one of those things where are they comfortable with the injuries? Are they comfortable with the future of it?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just something that I have to look at.
For sure. And
they'd have to look at.
What do you think about, we got Rebels Legacy coming in here with the, I can't read what his thing says, something gaming. I appreciate you, Rebels Legacy. Quiddy P, let's talk pressures. What are your thoughts about Quiddy P's fit in this defense? He's one that's a little bit squat. Doesn't have, although he does have okay arm length, but he's a little squat. And at Michigan, they love to make him versatile, but maybe to a fault, right? Like they just, like he's not as developed as you'd hope for, given how much like 3 technique, wide 9, 7, et cetera, like do one job and get really good at it rather than being versatile and not doing a good job anywhere. Not that he didn't do a good job, but just from a draft prospect perspective, what do you think about Quiddy Pay in this defense? I'd love him in twists and stunts, but in space, I mean, I don't know. I kind of get some Solomon Thomas vibes from him.
Yeah, I like him. I like what he can bring, but he's one of those. I'm not going to sit there and say a true 4-3 defensive end. He's one that I want in a 3-point stance. When he comes out of a 2-point stance, he seems a little bit late off his get off. Doesn't seem as quite as explosive. Just a little bit more problematic out of a 2-point stance than a 3-point stance. So I'd want him as a 7 technique out of a 3-point stance more than anything, which not super hard to adjust for Vic Fangio's defense is basically putting that rush linebacker, having them put their hand in the dirt. But just the issues of him dropping into coverage, which would be asked for, like, it's not the cleanest to fit. If you're looking at him to just go get after the quarterback, okay, but you're not just asking him to get after the quarterback in Vic Fangio's scheme. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Although that being said, pretty good run defense. You wouldn't have to really worry about him being blown off the line. I think he'd be okay setting the edge there. A little bit more of a plug as an edge setter. Mr. Boggan's coming back in here. You think the potential for busts are higher this year than usual? Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're dealing with an incomplete picture. Right, it's kind of like, who's that Pokemon? You're not the meme where the guy curses at the TV after guessing it wrong. It's Pikachu. But that's kind of how it's going to be this year. You're dealing with an incomplete picture, and so your odds of hitting. Also, it's a smaller class, like you said. So because of that, there's going to be less talent. You're going to have to convince yourself on some guys, and that probably more likely to lead to a bust comparative to their draft slot.
Yeah, and Mr. Boggins actually had another comment in here that I want to grab real quick. Saying that they haven't traded up since 1984. They traded up in 2012 with Denver. They traded up for Chandler Jones.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was a good move. Chandler Jones. Would Pikachu be a good slot cornerback? I mean, he's fast. He's electric out there. He's got
underbolt the receiver and just call it good. Iron tail the ball out of their hand. Like, oh, yeah, I'd take him on defense, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Pikachu would be very good. Built low to the ground too, right? He'd definitely be a slot corner though. That's a good point, Robert Caslow. I mean, obviously a little bit later in life, Raichu, he puts on a little bit of LBs, maybe not as fast, a little bit more of a power player. But Pikachu, especially anybody who's out there played Super Smash, would be definitely a good cornerback prospect. So out of all these trades that I laid out, Eric, are there any others teams that you think we should look out for trade partners for the Broncos, either in a trade down from 9 or overall?
I think one team that you can't discredit is Arizona. Word is that they want to get up for a corner or a wide receiver. And I mean, if we're talking about potentially moving to number 6 and Miami being comfortable moving down and still getting a guy they would take at 6 at receiver, then if they just stay put, then Cardinals can jump up, go get that receiver, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, not sure which one they would prefer. And then, or go get a corner. Again, getting ahead of Dallas and New York, both of them who seem to be set on corner if they stay put. Dallas most likely to stay put. And Dave Gettleman never trades. So, I mean, that would be right there. I mean, getting him. They lost Patrick Peterson. I can't remember what moves they made at corner, if any, off the top of my head. But it's not a position was a big strength for them. And I feel bad for whoever they end up drafting because they have to play for Vance Joseph, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, absolutely. That one makes a lot of sense. What do you think about the possibility? So we've listed Arizona. What about Minnesota? I know that they're a team that typically likes to trade back, but maybe they view this class having 2 offensive tackles that are tier 1. And if they can go up and get one of those guys because they need offensive line help, then they have 10 billion day 3 picks. Is that a team that you think, and obviously also the Broncos have a connection with them in the front office now. Yeah. Is that something that you think could make sense with Minnesota? I know it's one that's been thrown out previously.
If I mentioned earlier, if Penei Sewell falls to 9 and Denver doesn't want to take him, I could definitely see Minnesota being willing to jump up and go get him. They definitely need help on that offensive line. I don't think he's the best fit. I think they would prefer Rashawn Slater for the offensive scheme they run. But Penei Sewell, he can fit in just fine for what they want to do. And he gives them a guy at left tackle that they just don't have. So they definitely make a lot of sense. And then Washington is another team too. If Mac Jones is there, I could see Washington wanting to go get up and get him and just be done with it and hope that he turns into some guy. But I mean, there's quite a few teams. I don't think it's a situation where there won't be somebody there that multiple teams won't want to move up for, simply because I would expect both corners to still be there.
That's a good point. Andrew Switzer saying, "Oh, this is different. Mix and match on the hosts." Luke is out sick today, so everybody add him on Twitter. Tell him to feel better. Drink some chicken soup and some tomato juice, and we'll get there. Coming in at close to the buzzer, Paul. Definitely in the 2-minute warning here. Paul coming in. I'm late, but did you guys discuss trade down 9, 114 for 18, 50, 81 so we can draft 3 or 4 picks on running backs? God damn it, Paul. Where are you comfortable taking Jalen Phillips edge rusher? So we did not talk about 18 specifically with the Dolphins. That's one too. Obviously, we talked about the Broncos 6 and 9. That's one makes a lot of sense. Do you think there's any chance the Dolphins would want to come up from 18 to move up to 9 as well, to maybe stack those picks, get 2? I mean, you said there's some teams only have like 12 first-round grades. Dolphins being able to walk out with 2 of them would not be the worst.
I really can't see them wanting to move back up from 18. Basically because of how their roster's built, with what I think that they'd be looking for with that second pick. I don't think they would have enough value on the position to move up and go get one at that position. And I'm looking somewhere on the defense, running back maybe. So I don't see it from moving up from 18. But if they do, I mean, that's not a bad trade idea. Like, I'd be fine. I'd be okay with that. But yeah, not the running backs.
Yeah, I'm be curious take the off-field stuff off the table. I think that Micah Parsons would be an awesome scheme fit for them because how versatile and they are with where they like to bring pressure. I mean, is he over the A gap? Is he over the B gap? Is he standing up as an outside edge rusher? I mean, that's Brian Flores coming from that Bill Belichick school of defense. That makes a lot of sense schematically speaking. Again, character, who knows there. Another position, maybe edge rusher. Right, I can't really think of many elite edges. Obviously, they're one that prioritize coverage over pass rush, but you still got to have guys that can get home. And I think a Kwity Paye would be really interesting there if they like him a lot. Given, again, you're looking for rushing 3, rushing 4, kind of that slow power pass rush. I think Kwity Paye would make a lot of sense there as well if they wanted to get up and get somebody like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I really like Kwity Paye for that defensive scheme that they run. Like, I think that's probably one of the cleanest scheme fits for Paye, actually.
All right. Well, I'm not just talking out my butt like I am most days, so that's good to hear. That's thanks for confirming that, Eric.
Validation.
I needed it. We needed it before I get out of here. I needed Eric to compliment me, even if it was, through roundabout ways. We got there. So who's hyped for the 2021 NFL draft? Only 5 more days. I know I am. George is as well. Jason says he is. I think Peter is saying he is as well, but that's oh yes, me too. Yep. And here's one from Peter Middleton. Because we do got to get out of here pretty soon, but these are some good questions, and we want to get to everybody. And hello to you, Peter. Thank you for joining us today. Surprise position that we take high. A surprise position the Broncos could take high.
Well, I mean, it's legal in Colorado, so any position really could be high.
God, George Payton gets there for one day, and he's got like a parka on. He's listening to like Dave Matthews Band, and like, calm down. Sorry for all the Dave Matthews Bands listeners out there. I'm just giving you shit. Let's see. Surprise positions 4 a.m. in here, but that's how hyped I am. Well, Peter, get that coffee going, and make sure if you're also at 4 a.m. Building the Broncos for breakfast is next week. We're going to be live on air Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Pacific. So I will be drinking my coffee. I will be wearing a hat because I will still have bedhead, but we'll be here every day. So it's draft day. We're going to make the most of it and enjoy the week and bring some analysis. Surprise position.
Tight end.
Eric, that's a good one. Tight end is a good one because they need, we just talked about it. They need a wide tight end. Alberto Cuebanam is, don't shoot the messenger here because I've never seen a guy with 12 catches get so much love from a fan base. But especially a day 3 pick, but Pat Freiermuth, Hunter Long, Tommy Tremble, they don't have a wide tight end right now. I know that Shermer doesn't use 2 tight ends, but also like, is he going to use 2 F tight ends? Like maybe it's more of a schematic thing. It's the reason there were so many snaps for Vanette last year, even though he was a limited player.
Yeah, and one thing too is, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on Death Valley Deep Divers, as the season went on, they started using more 12 tight ends or 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets, and that's when Drew Lock did his best.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a thing of if they do end up having to run it back with Drew Lock, Pat Shermer's like, okay, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to make him more comfortable. Use more 2 tight end sets. We need a better second tight end. And maybe it's Pat Freiermuth, maybe it's Hunter Long, maybe it's Tony Tremble, maybe it's John Bates out of Boise State, or Quentin Morris out of Bowling Green, I think is another one who's a pretty good. But definitely options, and it's one that I could see. I don't think it's likely, but I could see it.
Yeah, and maybe wide receiver too. I mean, George Payton spilled the beans the other day that the Broncos aren't taking one at 9, but if they trade back, I mean, they talked to Rondale Moore, who is he a running back? Is he a wide receiver? Dude's a playmaker. Get him the ball. Yeah. I've loved him since I remember watching his very first game in college, Purdue versus Northwestern, and they're talking about that number 1 kid who jumps out of the gym and is squatting as a true freshman, and all these other teams are after him, but he wanted to stick close to home, and hasn't been healthy the last 2 years, but my God, and talk about Pikachu out there. What an absolute spark plug. So he's one that maybe would be really interesting to add as well to this offense. Can you have too many weapons? I don't think teams have enough guys to cover all those weapons. So then it comes back to, even if you just have a distributor, a pure point guard, a John Stockton type, if you will, at quarterback, not making plays really, but getting the ball to the playmakers, giddy up. A lot of fun. Really leaning into the spread offenses. I mean, honestly, bring up Lincoln Riley and let's just run 10 personnel and let's spread them out, baby.
I'm definitely with you. And I mean, this is a solid receiver class. I mean, if they want to go get one early, they can go look at a couple of these speedy guys and improve their deep shots at taking, or their deep shots. Marquez Stevenson, Tylan Wallace, not the Daz
Newsom.
Yeah. I mean, he's another one. I like him quite a bit on those go routes. I mean, he's not the greatest long speed guy, but long strider, and he can make those deep catches. Reminds me a little bit of Darius Slayton, who I know you and I both liked a couple of years ago.
That's a good name. Let me see if there's a couple others here at wide receiver that would make some sense. Frank Darby.
Amir Smith-Marset
is a name. Oh, yeah. Amir Smith-Marset. Brandon Smith. Josh Palmer out of Tennessee was his.
Ooh, I like Josh Palmer.
You do like Josh Palmer. I know the Broncos interviewed Shai Smith as well. He's somebody that they've shown interested in. Cade Johnson from South Dakota State is pretty slept on, I'd say. I mean, not a lot of people watching South Dakota State tape.
I mean, if you want a guy to compete with Deontay Spencer for that punt returner who offers up more on offense, then Cade Johnson is the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun here tonight, Eric. Out of all of these, I know you said trade up, but which of these scenarios for the trade back would you choose? The New England trade, the Eagles trade to the Bears trade, or the Baltimore trade? What was preferable for you?
I'd probably go with the Eagles to the Bears one. Just because it still gives you a little bit more options. Instead of moving back from straight to the 9 overall to 2 late first rounds, you still have more options. Just taking those couple shots down. And
you also got 2 top 100 2022 picks.
Yeah. And then the one with the Patriots and the Titans, I like the Titans part of it, but as I said, the whole bit of giving up a 2022 third just made it enough to where not a bad trade, but not my favorite.
Yeah, and we got Eric saying the fan base treated Alvarado better than Noah Fant. Noah Kant, their words, not mine. I don't get it. Noah Fant's out there. He's pretty darn good. I understand that one was a 4th round pick versus a 1st round pick, but I think it's some people holding against people. You're going to make me rant, guys. Calm down. I need to calm down. It's this romanticized view of the linebacker position. I don't get it. I mean, obviously it'd be great to have good linebackers, but you don't have to have Al Wilson out there to have a great defense. It's a devalued position in today's NFL. And there's a lot of Jags, which you can get by with Jags. And if you can get one of those rare players, it's kind of like it's the antithesis of tight end, or the opposite side of the field, right? Like there's only 3 true difference makers at tight end. The rest of them, good. They're obviously ones that are more talented than other. But if you can get one of those true difference makers, awesome. Rare. And if you're thinking that guy that I identified in the draft is going to be one of those 3 to 5 difference makers in the NFL at that position, good luck. Because the odds are against you.
I mean, and as you're hinting at, Noah Fant, I think the reason why he gets so much hate is because they passed up on Devin Bush. But yeah, Noah Fant's been so much better than Devin Bush has been.
Yes. If let's say those 2 players were offered in a trade right now, how much more would the Steelers have to give to get Noah Fant? I would need a second. Noah Fant in a second, or Devin Bush in a second for Noah Fant in a 6th.
Yeah, I'd actually something along those lines. Yeah.
That's how good Noah Fant's been. That's how hard it is to find dynamic tight ends, and linebacker's a position where you can take them day 2. And even if and also another position, tight end or linebacker, athleticism does not equal coverage. Watch Devin Bush and you will find that out. George Newton, many talented positions to choose from. QB seems shallow. Don't forget to smash the like button, folks. Thank you very much, George. We're at 28 right now. Would love to get it up to 30. Obviously, Royce Freeman, good player. Quentin Carter, good player, wearing that 28 back in the day. Did Nick Ferguson wear 28 too? Was that Kenroy Kennedy? Nick Ferguson, one of those 2 safeties. I can't remember. I think Nick Ferguson maybe wore 25. I'm a Nick. I'm supposed to remember these things. Doesn't matter. I just remember playing them back on my PlayStation 1 back in the day. But guys, go ahead.
Off question is, today was the battle of the Joshes. So when's the battle of the Knicks?
Gosh, the battle of the Knicks. It probably needs to be sometime in June, maybe mid-May. Let's schedule for mid-May because I need to get through the draft first, and let's have it after my backpacking trip on May 15th. So let's May 20th, Battle of the Knicks. Let's do it. We love y'all. Stay safe. Kennedy wore 20. It was Kenroy Kennedy. So there we go. I knew it was 1, and we got up to 29 now. So for Bradley Roby, 29 is a good looking number. But we appreciate all you guys. That's going to do it for Mile High Insiders tonight. Luke will be back. I guess I don't know what's going to happen next Saturday. It's a draft day again. I guess we'll be back next Saturday to recap the whole entire draft. But thanks, Eric from Dove Valley Deep Divers, and also Mile High Huddle for joining us today. If you guys are joining us on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. That helps us a heck of a lot. It gets us to new listeners. And thank you also for the nice comments coming in here. Greg Smith saying, great pod, guys. We got Dylan Von Ark saying, good show. Andrew, don't leave yet. We're still got our ad reads here. No, I'm just kidding. So like, subscribe, and share. Guys, also smash those like buttons if you're joining us on Facebook, or the hearts. It says 29 still, so let's hopefully get up to 30. We appreciated everybody who dropped a super today. Mr. Boggins obviously dropped a few, so we appreciate that. Paul coming in hot and clutch there at the end, and many more. We appreciate you guys so much for joining in. Peter Milton also saying the Broncos for Breakfast show has been enjoyable. We appreciate that. I've been enjoying talking football with Scott with the Falcons perspective. He's going to be very upset if we take Kyle Pitts at 4. So that will be interesting to see what happens Saturday or Friday morning with the show. Guys, also check out Mile High Huddle for all of our latest content. Eric, like he said, 260 Skyrim reports. Hopefully Chad has published a majority of them. You never know. And all the draft content, man. The speculation is going to end soon. A week from right now, we're going to know who the Broncos' entire draft class is. And man, a lot of build up, a lot of work for that. And you guys have been along for the ride. We appreciate that. We appreciate all the different opinions. But it's going to come to a close. Christmas time and for football. Love y'all. Stay safe. Follow Eric at Erick Trickel MHH. Follow John at John K MHH. Follow myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Y'all stay safe. Y'all stay beautiful. Go Broncos.